Welcome to the sideshow. If you like what you're seeing, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you. So I've started working on things. I've got the frame set up the way I'm going to do it, I guess. What I did is I took this half round piece of evergreen plastic. I ran it along the bottom and I filed it in, or sanded it down so that it would match into there. That's going to give it nice rigidity. Went a 1/4 inch past where the cut was. And then if you notice how this is split up here, I'm going to try and make it look like this. This is all structure holding the frame in place. And so this is going to be done in the copper, and this other portion of white up here will also be done in copper. And that was, let's see, do I have it here? Having to go with whatever I have on with me because I can't get to a hobby shop and I don't feel like ordering these things online. It costs ridiculous amounts of money online. But this is a full round piece of evergreen, and basically what I did was I just sanded one side flat so that it'll go against the frame. Like I mentioned, this frame is a little narrower than the frame that was on the Circus Wagon. But by doing this, I'm matching it up so that it's flush with this portion, and then if you notice, there's just the gap has been filled in with Tester's contour putty. Yeah, I still use Tester's contour putty. In any case, that's what the gap is there. And what I'm going to have to do is sand this all down now, and then I'm going to give the only white paint I have right now is some Rust-Oleum white, and so I'm going to give this a primer coat of Rust-Oleum white so that I can give it a coat of the Tamiya's light green. And hopefully that will work. I'm praying it will work. I'm hoping that there isn't a mix-up between the two paints. We'll see how that works, and if it does work, then I don't like the way the purple or the black is bleeding through on the purple engine. So what I'm going to do is also give the engine a spray of the Rust-Oleum flat white, or I might just hand paint this with a flat white or maybe a flat gray, probably flat gray, and then paint it purple afterwards. I think the copper will look fine over the black portion though, so we'll see how that all works. And then, well, once that's done, I will update this little piece, and then I think the frame will be ready for everything else to go in place. What I ended up doing is basically using the grid system on my map to make sure that everything was straight. So hopefully that will be good enough. It does seem to be about right. It is a little twisted, but that is common with these old monogram kits, that the frame is a little twisted anyway. I tried fixing it a little bit in the splitting of the parts, but it might still be a little twisted, so I'll have to do some of the old-fashioned techniques to get all four wheels to sit properly on the ground. In any case, that's it for this portion of the update, and let's cut away, and then when I come back I will have this thing primed. I've masked the front of the frame off because I don't want to have to strip this whole thing and repaint it. As you can tell, well, you might be able to tell, I first taped around the frame on the inside of the bag, and then I actually have taped the bag to the frame so that the entire back of the car is protected from any kind of overspray. And then what I will do is I will go ahead, run outside, and give this the coat of flat white or gloss white. I'm not sure which one it is. Anyway, spray that down and get a decent enough coat on that so that the black will not bleed through into the green, because I know the green is just not going to cover that black. my other thought was to paint it yellow first, but because the car comes yellow. That's the one thing I wish was the case with all of the Tom Daniel kits. I'd love it if they all came in white or like a gray styrene, so that you know, no matter what you're doing, it'd be a lot easier to paint it. But I know the kits are actually designed so that you can build them without painting them. In any case, let's see how this works. So I'm letting the frame dry and decided it's time to fix the back door. And so I took off that portion of the cage. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to cut some notches where the hinges are. You can see the hinges right there. And then also cutting notches on the door portion where the hinges are also at. And then I'm putting a little strip of evergreen plastic that's, I don't know, approximately 1/16 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch. And I'm putting it at a bit of an angle, as you can tell there. If you can see there. Notice it's at an angle. And what I'm going to do is then just stick them in the notches, like so. And glue it in place. And then on the other side it will look something about like so, with the angle of the opening. And be opened about like so. So that's about the way the doors are going to be. We'll see how that works out. And as you can see, I have sanded down the back side of the doors to get rid of all the mold lines and everything. And then I'm actually working on carving in a wood pattern on this side also, just using a you know, an X-Acto knife, so that we can get something that sort of resembles a wood panel on this side too. It doesn't look the world's greatest, but better than just being flat. We'll see. I don't know. Working on that still. And then these need to be painted copper and everything. But I think it'll work out all right. Okay, so we have the white primer coat on the front of the frame. Time for the TS22 light green. Let's see how it works. Hopefully it will go over the Rust-Oleum with no problem. Okay, so the front of the frame is now painted in the, to me, a light green. And I've got the copper accents, painted copper and everything. And I think it blends in pretty well, so I think that should work all right. Definitely going to give the Circus Wagon a different look than what the original had. I'm also tinkering with the idea of new seats in it. This is some modified seats out of the garbage truck that I have sanded and filed down to fit into here. They're not a perfect match, but I think they'll work all right once I get the get it all painted together and everything. And then I'm working on the engine here also. It's going to be a purple engine, copper oil pan, and then black and white and green on the transmission. Once that's done, probably an orange Fram oil filter. And then the only thing I'm wondering about is the scoops on the top. I'm still leaning towards making the scoops on the top green, even though the engine itself is purple. I think I'd rather have light green scoops on the top, and that's probably where I will go with that. Other than that, got a radiator that I'm just going to cut down and put inside this radiator. So that's where I'm going with the radiator. I'm just going to cut a different radiator down, stick it in there, and that should work. So that also means I can paint this up nice and neat. But that's where I'm at right now. Let's see how it goes once I get all this together. Oh, and as you can see, I will be using other portions of the Paddy Wagon also, so the fenders and stuff are also going to get painted the light green, and that will get done soon too. I actually started working on this Circus Wagon about a year and a half ago. I didn't realize how long it had been, and I was wondering why it was taking me so long to get back to it, and now I know why. I really just was not crazy about the green and purple. I never really liked it, and I think that's why I set this aside for so long. And the thing is I have another Dragon Wagon that is already in purple and white, and so I didn't want to do another one in purple, but for some reason I started that, and then I was like, well, what color do I make the interior? I can't have them both with a purple interior. And so I was going to go with a dark green interior on the car, and I was not really happy with that either. I wanted something a little bit garish, something that popped back and forth, and I think that's why this all stalled. And I've decided to go back and revisit the idea of using orange. But that means I've got to strip all the purple off, and what I'm using to strip the purple off, because this is just to me is purple, X16 purple, and it's an acrylic based paint, and I've had really good luck stripping it using dishwashing liquid, basically Ajax bleach alternative grapefruit dishwashing liquid does a pretty good job of stripping it. And you can see here I've stripped it here. Got a little bit more to take off. The copper is holding up better than the purple did, but that's what I've done. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a light gray coating around the part that is going to be painted orange, and then redo the letter in copper. So that's what I'm going to end up doing with this now. And you see these, they're soaking in there still, and they're coming along pretty good. I'm going to have to repaint the bars. The bars will probably slip off and everything, but I think it's going to work. I was concerned that the orange and copper would not work too well around the interior of the car, but actually I think that's going to work, especially if I line the orange tucking point with black to set off the orange from the copper. So that's the direction I'm going now, and I think the green and orange will be a nice touch. I am still going to leave the copper around the edges of the frame though, so it's going to be in copper, orange, and the light green. That's the new colors, and I think that'll work really well with the engine being an orange, copper, and green engine as well. So we'll see how that in a little bit. Thanks for visiting Toby's Sideshow of Scale Styrene. If you really enjoyed what you saw here, consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up online. Thanks again for dropping by.